To
What did you say?
society?
No, I'm saying there's parents that are regretful and that don't want children. So you would want a kid to be raised in an environment like that?
But would you rather
But
be
why
dead?
do you? Hang on.
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't want to be raised in an environment
You'd
like
rather
that.
be dead than raised in a loveless household.
Okay, no, but I'm
No.
saying as a fetus.
As a fetus, directly after the essay, this is now a life, then you would have to explain that justification, and she knows that there's no possible way she can. And so for her to be consistent, she would actually have to say no, even during or even as a result of essay, you would not be able to. That's the only really consistent. I understand the feeling of it.
Sorry, the comment.
You know?
So do you want children to grow up in loveless households or in the system? Because that's what is a result if, women get raped or, I mean.
Well, I think that a person who would end up a dominatrix probably grew up in a loveless household, but I don't want to abort you.
Shit.
I mean, that's your opinion.
I'm just saying, ultimately, no. I don't think that because you're poor, you have lesser value as a human being. I don't think because you're a woman or your race or anything like this, you have a lesser value as a human being. I think that human beings have an ontological value.
Yeah, and I just got to back up a little bit because notice how she totally started to straw man Andrew's arguments. She's like, well, you want kids to grow up in loveless and, these terrible houses, blah, 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 blah. First of all, no one ever said that, and that's not the argument. The argument is that even after rape or essay or whatever, it is still a human being with its own unique DNA formed in the image of God. So regardless of how it was conceived, it was conceived. Therefore, you should not be able to murder it. That's not an advocation that we want children to grow up poor or in loveless houses. And by the way, it's kind of insane because you don't know what's going to be the future of this child. Maybe it could grow up in a very difficult situation for the first 8 years of its life. And then after that, maybe their adoptive parents, maybe they get adopted, maybe their biological parents, if they keep them, whatever the case may be, may start to really come to loving and appreciating that child more. You never really know. It's insane that these people try to dictate the future out of, one moment in time. From one moment in time of a terrible situation, they try to dictate the rest of that human's life. And that's to say, if this human even gets a life to begin with. Pretty authoritarian dictatorship, if you ask me. Trying to dictate the lives of these children like you can see into the future, like you're God. Quit trying to play God and quit trying to act like murdering a human being before they can properly flourish is better than suffering, because everyone goes through suffering. If we take that logic to its end, then everyone should be able to get murdered right now because everyone goes through suffering, some worse than others, some way worse than others. Should we be able to kill them? No.
So I'm a Christian, and I've always believed that this is true. Even before I logically reconciled my beliefs in a God, I always knew that human beings intrinsically had value. I'm not ever going to say that because you're poor, you have no value.
But that's not what I'm getting at.
It is what you're getting at. They're of lesser value. How can you say?
No.
Okay, well then,
I'm saying
why do you want to kill
a child
them?
would grow up in a loveless household if they're, I've read
So they have
plenty
lesser
of-
value, right? To
What did you say?
society?
No, I'm saying there's parents that are regretful and that don't want children. So you would want a kid to be raised in an environment like that?
But would you rather
But
be
why
dead?
do you? Hang on.
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't want to be raised in an environment
You'd
like
rather
that.
be dead than raised in a loveless household.
Okay, no, but I'm
No.
saying as a fetus,
As a fetus.
you don't have that, obviously.
Well, hang on. I'm just going to engage with this the best
Okay.
way I can to kind of walk you through the logic here.
Not the logic.
Let us assume for a second that that you could read the mind of cows. Okay, that you could. A cow is born specifically for the purpose of being eaten. Now it's going to have a 3-year life cycle or 2-year life cycle till it gets as big as you can get it, and then you're going to humanely put it down. You're going to eat it. If you could ask these cows if they would rather exist for the 2 years or not exist for the 2 years, even knowing at the end of it they're going to get eaten, which do you think they would pick?
I don't think they would pick. Like, I just don't. I personally, like, if I knew that my parents didn't want me, I probably wouldn't want to be alive.
Then let's ask you. If you could live 20 years of your life, right, knowing that at the end of that 20 years, the lights would just go out, but you would get eaten by aliens, let's say, would you still choose to be alive if you had good quality of life?
No, I wouldn't want to subject myself to that.
You wouldn't.
No.
Okay, so then why is it you subject yourself to any suffering?
I mean, I think there's different levels of
I
suffering.
mean, you're a dominatrix.
You know what I mean?
You literally perform suffering on people
I'm
and think it's
saying-
hilarious and fun.
I mean, yeah, true. But I'm saying that in the context of a family, a kid that is growing up in an abusive environment by
there's
no fault
suffering.
of their own.
That's suffering, yeah.
Yeah, it is suffering. And for some people, they don't ever win that
Yeah,
battle.
for some people,
some
that's
people
true.
are stronger.
But
Some
can you
peop-
agree with me that when it comes to trauma, if you're alive, you at least have a shot of moving past trauma?
Sure, you do. But there
And if
are
you're dead,
people that
you have no shot of moving past trauma.
that's fair. But I think growing up knowing that you are the product of grape or incest, that can't be a easy weight to bring around with
Yeah,
you.
but that's a trauma which can be surmounted. Death cannot be surmounted.
I don't think that's something that you.
In other words,
people
why,
live with it.
why would I want to embrace a doctrine of death instead of a doctrine of life? I want the doctrine of life. I want, even if it is so that the conditions are not going to be optimal for a child who's born, I still think that we don't get to determine to kill them just because we think perhaps they might have a bad quality of life. People can move past suffering, but they can't do it dead.
I mean, I think people can move past suffering, but I think there are levels of suffering that you're going to have to just live with, but you're never going to heal from.
Maybe, but at least you're alive. And many people carry the scars of suffering that they never completely heal from. The death of a loved one, for instance, would be one such category of this. And isn't it still better to be alive with that scar than dead?
I just think the context is a little bit different when you're bringing in the fact that you are the product of incest or grape. Like, that's not a great feeling. And also you
Can a
have to deal
person, a
with, like,
product, incest and grape go on to do amazing things?
sure they
Then
can.
why
I'm
do you
not
wanna
saying that
take-
they can't,
then
but I'm
all
just
I want
saying.
is the potential.
but
All I want
that's-
is the potential. Even if it's horrible, I just want the potential of knowing that they can, to allow them to try.
Jivanik donated $200. There are thousands of people
Tons.
who were conceived through SA.
Tons.
Are they lesser than you?
They're not
Is your
lesser value.
worth based on how much your parents desired you?
No.
So I never said that I was better than anyone that was conceived through SA. I obviously know that that's not
You wanna
anyone's
kill 'em.
choice. I never said I.
Yeah, this is insane to me that she doesn't see the irony here. This is exactly what she's saying. She's saying that people conceived of grape are less valuable. She's not saying that directly, but that is what you can infer from what she's saying. She's saying that it's better to kill these people because they were conceived in an awful way. She's saying that the scars of knowing that you were conceived in this awful way should dictate your outcome, and that outcome being death, not even trying to give you the possibility of overcoming it and flourishing and then doing amazing things. So she truly is, maybe not realizing it, she is saying that people just like herself who are not conceived in this way are morally better or are morally higher on the scale than people conceived like this, because she's in straight advocation that they should be killed. That's exactly what she's saying, and it's hard to believe that she doesn't see that or realize it.
I wanted to kill them.
Well, I mean,
I'm
that's what
saying
you're
that there are
doing.
some people that can't live with that pain.
Yeah, here's the thing. The vast majority of them can, and humans are resilient. Humans go through horrific things, and they're able to move past those traumas. Knowing that that is true, that you've gone through suffering that's horrible, and so is everybody at this table, and you're going to keep going through suffering. That's part of the human experience. It's still
That's
optimal.
preventable suffering.
Yeah, but you're still going to be suffering in your life, aren't you?
Yeah, you're still gonna feel bad.
You're going to suffer.
Yeah, but in a different way. I think that unfortunately, like, this is preventable. Like, you can't say that, like, me going through something like a death of a loved one is the same as those are two completely different traumas.
Have you ever
know what
heard this is an old quote? It's better to have loved and lost than to never have loved at all.
Yeah, I have heard that.
What is it? What do you think that means?
I mean, I think I take it for face value. It's better to.
Well, if you had never loved, you could never go through the suffering of losing love, which is one of the worst types of suffering. Losing a kid, losing a parent, losing a sibling, even losing the love of your life to another man or woman or whatever, right? It's still better and preferable, in other words, to go through the suffering of losing that than to have never positioned yourself to suffer at all. Do you agree?
I mean, that's fair. That is a fair statement. But I'm saying that I don't think you should subject an innocent child to that type of situation. And not even just like the sense of you were the product of rape or incest, but the fact that your parents, not all, but some parents resent that. And I've listened to this girl talk about regretful parenting, and she reads stories that people post on Reddit and whatnot, or just send to her individually, and they talk about how much they regret their children. And
Sure.
like, that's not fair.
Wait.
That's not fair to the children.
All of these people who exist currently, who are the product of SA, why aren't they unaliving themselves if their suffering is insurmountable?
Because they're not suicidal? I don't know.
Because their suffering's not insurmountable. Meaning they must have something that they're continuing to live towards and moving towards, right? That makes their suffering surmountable to that of life. Otherwise, they could and do always have the option of ending that, but they don't. And so that seems like it's powerful evidence that a person even conceived under those circumstances would still prefer to be alive than dead, because the people who have been aren't unaliving themselves.
I mean, I'm sure there are some that are.
Sure.
But
it can't be the vast majority, nor even close.
I mean, I understand your statement, but I still stand on how I feel about it, and I'm just saying.
-200 donated $200. Wilson, how do you reconcile your Christian opposition to abortion with the historical involvement of religious groups in wars that have resulted in the loss of many lives?
I don't see how those two things would need to be reconciled.
This is how my employees clock in today.
This little thing has helped my business save tens of thousands of dollars.
Remember how we used to clock in?
Yeah.
So saying that you are essentially assassinating a child in the womb, because that's what I think you're doing from my perspective, though I understand that's politically charged language, is far different than fighting a war of opposition. Sometimes this is done defensively, sometimes offensively, but justifications for wars are completely different than justification of killing innocent children.
I mean, it's still unnecessary carnage, you know what I mean?
It's not always unnecessary. Sometimes it's necessary carnage. Necessary is a loaded word. You got to be careful with it, right? Like, it's not necessary for you to be a dommy mommy.
I mean,
Right?
I wouldn't call myself a dommy mommy.
Yeah, but it's not necessary, right?
I mean, sure, it's not necessary.
It's not necessary. Necessary
not
is
out of necessity.
That's a very loaded. It's a very loaded word.
Okay,
So,
fair enough.
but
Loaded.
kind of backing up here, I would like to kind of challenge this just a little bit more before we move on. The idea of, if you and I can agree that most people conceived under the condition of SA are not unaliving themselves, then don't you think that they've been able to surmount the very suffering that you want to eliminate the potential of them even being able to face?
I mean, sure. Of course, there's going to be people out there that are able to move past their suffering and make something of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm just saying in the sense of, if you can prevent any sort of suffering that doesn't need to be had, I mean, part of life, like, you're going to lose a loved one. That's inevitable. But this is something that can be avoided.
But I want you to think about the logical conclusion of this statement. Suffering can be avoided, right? And you're saying death is the ultimate way to avoid suffering. So then the extension of this would be, if you wanted to eliminate suffering in the entire world, what would you do?
Just kill everyone, right?
Does that make sense to you?
I mean, yeah, it does make sense to me.
Yeah, so you wouldn't want to do that, right? You wouldn't
No.
want to, of course not. So when we kind of take this to its logical conclusion of, we want to make sure people can avoid suffering, well, you say we can do this by killing them. I agree. I guess that would avoid all future suffering. But the extension of that is, if suffering is the thing we're trying to avoid, why wouldn't we just do that with everybody?
I get that.
And there we go. She got walked down the logic. It's exactly what I said. He took her to the logical conclusion. She even concedes that, yeah, she wouldn't do that. So at this point, it's mind-boggling to me, why even have this position? When your argument gets destroyed and it gets reduced down to absolute absurdity, like it does here in this case, where it's better to just, unalive everyone in the world to prevent suffering. It's mind-boggling to me how these people don't use logic and reasoning to change their views. This is exactly why we have argumentation. This is exactly why we have logic. It's to see whose arguments lead to absolute absurdity versus whose doesn't, and whose is consistent across the board when it's applied equally across the board. But it's so insane to me that these people want to hold on to these claims after their argument gets reduced down pretty easily and pretty easily to understand the absurdity it is, yet they want to keep on to those views for really no reason.
No, but I mean, I think there's, you know, certain types of suffering that do make you, like, quote unquote, stronger. I mean, you gotta appreciate.
Like most kinds. Most kinds.
Yeah, most
usually
kinds
do.
of suffering. Again, I just think that that's something that is, you know, avoidable, and that's where I stand on that, you know?
So I can't sway your mind even with logical argumentation? Like, is there anything I could do with logical argumentation that would sway your mind away from how you feel?
No.
No.
I feel the way I feel, and I've felt this way for a long time. So.
Do you think that feeling should trump logic?
I mean, what is logic? Like,
Logic would be the proper and reasoned way in which to ferret out a position which is coherent. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine that without that, nothing in this world would work, including how you get up. Like, you use logic daily and reasoning daily just to get through your day, right?
fair enough, yeah.
So, I mean, you don't want to trump that with emotion. Making an emotional argument would be counterintuitive, right? You can have all sorts of terrible results from just like, listen to my emotions. That would be, you don't want people to listen to your emotions, right?
I mean, I think emotions are valid.
Sure. Not saying they're invalid. I make tons of emotional decisions. Mm-hmm. If I pick a blue-colored truck versus a red-colored truck, that's probably an emotional decision. It's
not
because,
logic.
Yeah, it's not because I'm getting any like extra performance out of the blue. I just emotionally like blue.
Actually, though, you could use logic for that because, you know, like, I think they say red cars get pulled over the most.
Yeah, I'm just saying in this case, I'm not.
Yeah, I
just
that.
like
No,
blue more.
Fair enough,
right?
fair enough.
But that doesn't really require a logical justification. Nobody's going to ask me to justify why I want a blue over a red truck, right? That's not really a big deal. So I'm willing to concede to you that I use emotions tons, right? Mm-hmm. But when it comes to a position of life, death, things like this, reason should probably trump emotion, shouldn't it?
I'll allow you each one final response
right.
on this, and I have to move it on.
Yeah, move it along. I mean, I think
I just want to
we're
answer
gonna
that
keep
last
moving
question.
in circles. Repeat it.
I just want to know if you think ultimately, even knowing that I do think that emotion is valid, that doesn't mean that we should use it in lieu of reason, but we should usually use reason in lieu of emotion if we're making big decisions.
I mean, technically you're correct, but I think it stems a lot deeper when it comes to this subject.
Okay.
Even when her claims get broken down to absurdity, she still holds on to them, but sometimes the debate is to convince everyone watching and not the person that you're debating against. That is what is so beautiful about logic, reasoning, and debating ideas on the center stage. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe for more future videos. We post every Monday through Saturday. Hit that bell notification so you never miss a video. We do debate breakdowns, analysis, political commentary, and I'm going to leave you with this. If you guys are watching this right now, you were not aborted in your mother's womb. Praise Jesus Christ that you survived the biggest genocide and that is currently still going on in recorded human history, where we have about 70 million babies slaughtered in their mother's womb every single year worldwide. Jesus Christ is King. Repent and believe in the gospel.